toothbrushes, games, breakfast cereals, and whatever the heck this is. Blockbuster movie marketing campaigns have manufactured an endless amount of merchandising tie-ins. But there are movies so bad, no licensee in their right mind would be foolish enough to associate their product with. Well, I might not be in my right mind because that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Yes, today in the Art Lab, I am designing retro trading cards for some of the worst movies ever made. So join me, Scott Serkland, in the Art Lab. Let's suit up. The selection of trading cards based on truly horrible movies is limited. There were some exceptions. I mean, Howard the Duck trading cards were a thing.
No more Mr. Nice Duck.
But by and large, bad movies have been underrepresented when it comes to collectible cards. That is, until now. Let's kick things off with one of the biggest cash grabs in cinematic history, Mac and Me, which isn't so much a movie as it is one big infomercial for McDonald's. And to say that Mac and Me is a ripoff of E.T. is an understatement. But while E.T. was famously rejected by major endorsement from M&M's, Mac and Me used E.T.'s success to secure sponsorships from not only McDonald's, but also Sears, Skittles, and Coca-Cola. Ronald McDonald even introduced the movie in a trailer.
Hi kids, it's me, Ronald McDonald, and I'm on the set of my very first motion picture ever. It's a movie called Mac and Me.
Unbelievably, McDonald's managed to crowbar in an insane, fully choreographed dance number inside one of their restaurants. Despite all this blatant product placement, this dud produced surprisingly few licensing tie-ins. Since this movie is an unapologetic knockoff of E.T., let's continue that tradition by swiping the style of the original E.T. trading cards. First, let's duplicate the Mac and Me logo. I used Futura Extra Black and stretched the type to match the logo. I'm not sure what font was used for the script and, so I'll just trace the type with the pen tool in Adobe Illustrator. The color scheme used for the Mac and Me marketing is a bluish purple and yellow, so I'll mimic that for the card. We'll sprinkle a few stars around the border in the style of the E.T. trading cards. Since the back of the E.T. trading cards depict the famous scene of E.T. and Elliot flying over the forest with the full moon behind them illuminating their silhouette, we're going to have a similar setting with the infamous scene of Eric falling off a cliff in his wheelchair as Mac watches from the shore below. I'll use photo references to create silhouettes of the various elements. Now to arrange a composition using all of the elements. We'll add some color and mimic the texture associated with the vintage trading card chipboard card backs. Let's add a summary of the scene featured on the front of the card. Oh wait, we haven't picked a scene. Let's pull a still from the epic chase throughout the town as Eric and Mac are pursued by, I don't know, federal agents, NASA scientists? It's not quite clear. Of course, there are so many other bonkers scenes to choose from. Mac running out into traffic, Mac destroying property, Mac's family having a shootout with the cops, blowing up a strip mall, or the US government just ignoring all of these crimes and granting Mac and his family citizenship. Oh, no you won't. Let's move on. Next up is Troll 2, which despite the movie's title, isn't a sequel, nor is it about trolls. It's about vegetarian goblins who turn humans into plants by tempting them with food covered with green frosting, I guess. Is this supposed to be appetizing? Anyway, this transforms victims into a disgusting pool of green slop, which the goblins proceed to gobble up. So, we're going to incorporate the dripping green ooze into our border design. If you haven't seen Troll 2, I can't begin to prepare you for the ride you're in for. At its core, it's about family values, like bonding on a road trip.
Joshua, start singing. Come on, sing that song I like so much.
Row, row, row your boat gently down a stream.
Merrily, 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 life is but a dream.
Being hospitable.
And you can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it!
The role of a strong masculine head of household.
If my father discovers you here, He'd cut off your little nuts and eat them. He can't stand you.
And the importance of discipline.
What are you going to do to me, Daddy?
Tighten my belt by one loop so I don't feel hunger pains. And your sister and mother will have to do likewise.
So it's very important that we treat this design with the respect it deserves. Having said that, I've recreated the Troll 2 logo as vector art in Adobe Illustrator, duplicating the logo shape and knocking out the top layer to create a drop shadow. Now I'll type out the most iconic phrase from the film using a distressed font. I'll add the card number and begin designing the layout for the fun fact featured on the back of the card. The street sign for the town of Nilbog, which, spoiler alert, is goblin spelled backwards.
Nilbog! It's goblin spelled backwards!
Has to be incorporated into the design. So I'll convert this photograph to a black and white image and isolate it from the background. Now to arrange our composition as we did with the previous design to create a monotone screen print look that we can superimpose our fun fact over. We'll add some color to the front of our card and drop in the most notorious scene from this cult classic.
They're eating her! And then they're going to eat me! Oh my God!
But we can't stop there. I mean, this movie has everything. Sex, violence, rock and roll, Oscar-worthy performances.
I am Credence Leonor Gielgud of ancient Druid origins. Am I mistaken, or is there something wrong with the two of you?
What more could you ask for? I think I'll pass. Last but not least is this cinematic gem from 1966, Manos, the Hands of Fate. Now, I'll admit my Spanish is almost non-existent, but I do know that Manos means hands, so this film literally means hands, the hands of fate. This bizarre experiment is the result of a bet between a screenwriter and a fertilizer salesman who wagered that anyone could make a movie. And to this day, I'm not exactly sure who won that bet. I mean, technically, it's a movie. Manos, the Hands of Fate is only about an hour long, but the excruciating editing, stilted dialogue, and awkward pauses make it feel like an eternity.
Well, how about it, Torgo? Can we spend the night here? Well, I don't know what else we can do. How about it, Torgo?
I don't want to stay. Let's leave.
I don't know about it. I just don't know.
For all the film's flaws, and there are many, I really do like the logo from this vintage promotional poster, so we'll feature the logo prominently in our design. The film opens with a young family who took a wrong turn on their vacation.
I could have sworn we didn't make a wrong turn.
You must have. Where did the road go?
No need to get upset. We'll find it.
Why don't we sing a song to help pass the time? Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 like...
Wait, what is with families driving around singing Row, Row, Row Your Boat in bad horror movies? Anyway, the family soon arrives at the home of the villain of the film, who calls himself the Master and lures unexpected women, then hypnotizes them into becoming one of his many wives. He wears black robes with giant red hands printed on them that he's fond of displaying in all of its glory by constantly outstretching his arms. We'll use this red and black color scheme as well as the hand motif in our design. I'll incorporate this cool retro poster font called Dynamic Duo that I purchased from Comic Craft for our screen description. Using a similar technique that I applied to the back of the Troll 2 card, I'll convert this photo of the Master to grayscale, adjusting the levels to create a solid black and white image. Next, we'll drop some images of hands made red, which should pop against the black and white background. Now we'll complete the back of our card back by adding a description of Torgo, the master's shambling, swollen-kneed servant.
I am Torgo. I take care of the place while the master is away.
We'll give it a vintage craft paper look, then switch back over to the front of our card and drop in the image of Torgo creepingly and longingly gazing out of the window. Of course, we need to feature a few more scenes, but this movie is so incredibly boring, it's really hard to find anything interesting enough to showcase on a trading card. Oh no, I wonder how many films that end with "the end?" actually warrant a sequel. With our designs complete, let's lay out each of them in this template that I made available to anyone subscribed to my newsletter. In addition to templates like this, when you sign up for my newsletter, you'll also receive the Comic Maker Starter Kit, packed with digital assets you can use in your creative projects. Also, select members of my Patreon community will receive additional templates or the layered Photoshop files for these trading cards. With the design laid out, it's time to print the front of our cards on white copy paper and the back of the cards on sheets of chipboard. If you're up for the challenge and have a printer that can print on thick cardstock, I'll leave a link to some paper with white on one side and chipboard on the back, along with affiliate links to any of the additional tools I'm using for this project. However, I'm just going to adhere the two sides with spray adhesive. Only one thing left to do, and that is to cut out our cards with an X-Acto knife and metal ruler. These cards really represent the vibe of vintage trading cards from back in the day. And it's just cool to see movies that you normally wouldn't see featured on a trading card. Here, have a closer look. As cool as these cards are, there's something missing. They need to be packed in wax. So, in a future episode, we'll be creating wax pack packaging for all of these trading cards. When that video's done, you'll find it right up here. In the meantime, use those burning hands of fate to smack down those like and subscribe buttons.